on time? I've been wanting to try to build something for speed for a long time. Let's learn how to build a floating house.
Round 1.
I want my floating house to feel modern and clean, so I choose white concrete as the main material for the structure. White is often used in contemporary architecture because it creates a feeling of simplicity, openness, and space. Many modern buildings use light colors because they reflect more sunlight and make large surfaces appear less heavy. I also decide to make the house 2 floors above the water and add 1 more level below the surface. This creates a completely different type of home because most houses are designed to stay connected to the ground, while this one interacts with both the air and the underwater world. Floating architecture is interesting because it changes the usual relationship between a building and its environment. Instead of being fixed to the land, the house becomes part of the landscape around it. My goal is not just to create a place to live, but to make the building feel like it belongs to the water. The first floor of my floating house uses spruce planks for the walls, which creates a strong contrast with the white concrete above. I like combining these 2 materials because they represent 2 different ideas in design. White concrete gives the building a futuristic and modern appearance, while wood adds warmth and a more natural feeling. Architects often combine materials with different textures because using only one surface can sometimes make a building look too flat or cold. Wood is especially effective in residential architecture because people naturally associate it with comfort and a connection to nature. The lower floor also helps balance the whole structure visually, since the upper parts of the house are light and bright. The wooden section creates a stronger base and prevents the building from feeling like it is floating without support. Good design often comes from finding the right balance between contrasting elements. The platform where I build the house is made from white concrete, and I place a section of white glass around the middle. This creates an interesting transition between the structure and the water below. In real architecture, transparent materials are often used to connect indoor spaces with their surroundings. Large glass surfaces can make people feel closer to nature because they allow more light and views into the building. For a floating house, this connection is especially important because the water becomes part of the experience. The glass section also changes how the platform looks from different angles, making the house appear lighter and more advanced. Modern architects often use transparency to create the feeling that a building is almost disappearing into its environment. By adding glass between solid concrete sections, I make the platform feel less like a simple base and more like a carefully designed part of the home itself. I build the second floor from white concrete and replace the windows with light blue glass panes. I choose this combination because I want the upper part of the house to feel more connected with the sky and the water around it. Colors can influence how people experience a building, even before they notice the shape. Light blue is often associated with calmness, openness, and the feeling of space, which makes it a good choice for a house surrounded by water. The glass also changes the way the building interacts with its environment because it reflects the sky during the day and creates a connection between the inside and outside. Modern architects often use large glass surfaces for exactly this reason. They want people inside a building to feel closer to nature instead of separated from it by solid walls. The white concrete around the windows creates a clean frame that keeps the design simple and balanced. I don't add many different materials because modern architecture often works best when every element has a clear purpose. The combination of white concrete and blue glass helps the second floor look light, peaceful, and almost like it is floating above the water. The most unusual part of my floating house is the level that I build below the water. Instead of treating the underwater area as just a hidden foundation, I make it into an actual part of the home. The walls of this floor are made from glass, while the floor is built from white concrete. This creates a completely different experience compared to normal rooms because the surrounding environment becomes part of the interior design. Underwater architecture is difficult in real life because engineers need to think about pressure, waterproofing, and the strength of materials. Structures placed below the surface need special designs to keep people safe while still allowing them to enjoy the view. Glass is especially interesting because it removes the visual barrier between the person and the environment. In my house, the underwater floor becomes like a viewing area where the ocean is not something outside the window, but something that surrounds the entire room. This idea shows how architecture can change the way people experience a place. A normal house separates us from nature, but a carefully designed floating home can make nature become part of the living space itself. Phew, I barely made it on time. Great, my floating house is ready.
Hello.
Hey, Carrie, look! I built it in just 5 minutes. Do you like?
Yay!
Really? I am very glad that you like my makeshift construction. Maybe then you'll try to build a floating house yourself in just 10 minutes?
Ta-da!
They ran to the place. This will be your building. Are you ready?
Yay!
Then go ahead.
Round 2.
Carrie starts her floating house by creating a large circular foundation on the water using quartz blocks. I think this is a really interesting choice because the shape immediately makes the building feel different from a normal house. Most buildings are based on simple rectangular plans because straight walls are easier to design and construct, but curved structures often create a stronger visual identity. In architecture, circles are often connected with ideas like harmony, movement, and unity because there is no single corner or dominant direction. By choosing a round platform, Carrie makes the foundation itself become an important part of the design instead of just a support for the house above. The size of the base also gives the future building a feeling of importance, almost like a small private island. Floating architecture often has to solve a unique problem. The building needs to feel stable while being surrounded by water. A wide foundation helps create that impression because it visually distributes the weight and makes the structure appear more balanced. The quartz foundation is built quite high, with about half of it extending below the water level. This creates an interesting relationship between the visible and hidden parts of the structure. In real engineering, underwater sections are often just as important as the parts people can see because they provide stability and protection. A building that interacts with water needs a strong base that can resist movement and environmental pressure. Even though Minecraft does not simulate these forces, the visual idea remains the same. The submerged part makes the floating house feel more connected to the water instead of simply sitting on top of it. It gives the impression that the structure has a deeper foundation beneath the surface, which makes the entire project look more believable. Good architecture often uses hidden elements to support visible beauty, because the strongest designs are usually not only about what people see but also about what makes the structure possible. Around the edges of the platform, Carrie adds purple block slabs on top of the quartz. This creates a border that separates the main building area from the surrounding water. Borders are a common tool in design because they help define space and show where one area ends and another begins. Without this edge, the large circular platform could feel like one endless surface, but the purple details give it a clearer shape and make the outline easier to notice. The contrast between the bright quartz and darker purple blocks also adds visual depth. Color contrast is often used in architecture to highlight important parts of a structure, similar to how frames or outlines draw attention to specific areas. Even a simple change around the edge can completely change how people perceive the size and form of a building. For the center of the platform, Carrie uses spruce planks to cover the upper surface. This creates a warm contrast with the quartz around it and makes the future living area feel more comfortable. Quartz has a clean and almost luxurious appearance, while wood adds a natural feeling that connects the house with the environment around it. Many modern buildings combine materials like stone, concrete, and wood because each one creates a different emotional response. Hard materials often represent strength and durability, while wood is usually associated with comfort and relaxation. Since this is a floating house surrounded by water, adding a natural material in the center helps prevent the design from feeling too cold. The platform becomes not just a technical foundation, but a place that already suggests how people might experience the space in the future. Carrie continues developing the floating house by adding supports around the edges of the platform using purple block fences. These supports are not only decorative details, but also help change the way the entire structure is perceived. When people look at a building, visible supporting elements often create a feeling of stability because they show how different parts of the design are connected. In real architecture, columns, frames, and structural details are sometimes intentionally left visible because they become part of the building's character. Instead of hiding everything behind walls, designers can use these elements to create rhythm and make the structure easier to understand. The repeated purple supports around the circular platform also emphasize its shape, guiding the eye around the edge and making the floating foundation feel more organized. This is an important design idea because large open spaces can sometimes feel empty, but repeated elements create a visual pattern that makes the composition stronger. Above these supports, Carrie builds additional sections using quartz slabs, purple blocks, and glass. This combination creates a balance between solid surfaces and transparent areas, which is a common idea in modern architecture. Heavy materials like quartz and purple blocks give the structure a strong identity and define its shape, while glass allows light to pass through and keeps the connection with the surrounding water. Architects often combine these different types of materials because a building made entirely from solid blocks can feel closed and massive, while a structure made mostly from glass may lose a sense of comfort and protection. The contrast between open and closed spaces helps create a more interesting experience. In a floating house, this balance becomes especially important because the environment around the building is one of its greatest advantages. The glass sections allow the water and sky to become part of the visual design instead of something separated from the home. As Carrie moves higher, she creates a new floor that includes a swimming pool. This changes the idea of the floating house because the building becomes not only a place to live, but also a space designed for relaxation and entertainment. Pools are often used in luxury architecture because they create a connection between comfort and the surrounding environment. They can become the central feature of a space, especially when they are placed near views of nature or unique landscapes. In this case, the pool fits the concept of a house built above water because it strengthens the relationship between the structure and its location. Instead of treating water as something outside the building, Carrie makes it an active part of the design. This is a common approach in modern architecture, where designers try to make the environment and the building work together, rather than keeping them completely separate. The pool helps the floating house feel more like a private resort built on the water. To create the pool area, Carrie divides this floor into two different sections. One side is covered with light blue glass blocks, creating a clear boundary for the water area. Dividing a large space into separate zones is an important part of architectural planning because it helps people understand how each area is meant to be used. Architects do not always need solid walls to separate spaces. Different materials, colors, or changes in height can create a visual division while keeping the overall design open. The light blue glass works especially well for the pool because it visually connects with the water and creates a brighter atmosphere. Transparent materials are often used around pools and relaxation areas because they allow more light to enter and make the space feel larger. Instead of making the pool look like an isolated room, the glass helps it become part of the entire floating house. After creating the glass section, Carrie fills the area with water and transforms it into a functional pool. This addition changes the way people would experience the building because water becomes more than just a view outside the windows. It becomes something that directly interacts with the living space. Water has always played an important role in architecture because it creates movement, reflections, and a feeling of calmness. Designers often include pools, fountains, or ponds because these elements add another layer to the atmosphere of a place. Unlike stone or concrete, water is constantly changing depending on the lighting and surroundings, which makes the environment feel more dynamic. In a floating building, this effect becomes even stronger because the entire concept already depends on the relationship between architecture and water. The pool supports the main idea of the project by making the house feel like it truly belongs above the water. The combination of the circular platform, purple supports, glass sections, and pool creates a strong identity for Carrie's floating house. Each element has a different role, but together they follow one clear design idea, creating a modern home that feels connected to its surroundings. The quartz gives the structure a clean and luxurious appearance. The purple details add character and help define the shape, and the glass keeps the building open to the environment. Carrie is building something truly massive. Let's give her a few more minutes to build it. Good architecture often comes from this kind of balance, where every material and shape contributes to the same concept instead of being added randomly. A memorable building does not need hundreds of different details. Sometimes a few carefully chosen ideas, repeated throughout the design, are enough to create something unique. Carrie's floating house stands out because the structure, materials, and location all work together to create the feeling of living directly on the water. On the other side of the same floor, where Carrie creates the pool, she places grass blocks at the same level as the water. This creates a completely different atmosphere compared to the glass and water section. Instead of continuing with only artificial materials, she introduces a small natural area that brings another type of experience into the floating house. In architecture, combining built spaces with natural elements is a common way to make environments feel more comfortable. This idea can be seen in rooftop gardens, indoor plants, and houses designed around existing landscapes. Nature creates contrast with the clean lines of modern structures, making the space feel less empty and more connected to the world outside. In a floating home, adding greenery is especially interesting because it creates a small piece of land above the water. The grass area almost works like a private island inside the building, giving the house a stronger connection with nature. Above this grassy section, Carrie builds a small house using quartz blocks, purple blocks, and glass panes. Even though it is much smaller than the main structure, it follows the same design language as the rest of the floating house. Repeating the same materials throughout different parts of a project is an important architectural principle because it creates unity. A smaller structure can feel like it belongs to the main building when it shares similar colors, textures, and shapes. The quartz keeps the clean, modern appearance. The purple blocks continue the unique identity of the design. And the glass allows light to enter while keeping the connection with the outside environment. Small additional buildings are often used in real architecture to create separate functional areas, such as guest houses, studios, or relaxation spaces. Instead of making everything one large room, designers sometimes divide a property into smaller structures that each have their own purpose. The use of glass panes in the small house is especially important because the entire floating house concept depends on views and openness. A normal wall separates people from the environment, but glass changes that relationship by allowing the outside world to become part of the interior experience. Modern architects often use large windows when a location itself is one of the biggest advantages of a project. A home near the ocean, mountains, or a forest usually benefits from designs that frame those views instead of hiding them. Here, the water around Carrie's creation becomes part of the decoration. The glass does not just make the house look modern, it helps connect the people inside with the unique location of the building. For the roof of the small house, Carrie chooses stone brick stairs. This creates a different texture from the quartz walls and gives the smaller structure its own recognizable shape. Roof design has always been an important part of architecture because it affects both appearance and function. A roof can change the silhouette of a building, protect the walls below, and influence how the entire structure is perceived. Using stairs instead of ordinary blocks creates a more gradual shape and adds depth to the top of the house. Small changes like this are often what makes simple buildings feel more detailed. Even when a structure uses only a few materials, different block shapes can create shadows and layers that make the design much more interesting. On the right side of the small house, Carrie builds a canopy using dark oak fences. This creates another transition between the enclosed building and the open space around it. Canopies are commonly used in architecture because they provide a covered area without completely closing it off. They can create comfortable outdoor spaces where people can rest while still feeling connected to the surrounding environment. The dark oak also adds another natural material to the design, creating contrast with the brighter quartz and glass. This combination of modern surfaces and warmer details helps the floating house avoid feeling too cold or artificial. Even a small outdoor structure can change how people use a building because it creates another place between the interior and the surrounding landscape. Around the house, Carrie starts adding natural details by growing grass and flowers with bone meal and planting 2 trees, one dark oak and one tropical tree. These elements help transform the floating house from just a collection of modern blocks into a place that feels more alive. In architecture, landscaping plays a huge role because buildings are not experienced separately from their surroundings. Designers often use plants to soften hard materials like stone, concrete, and glass, creating a more comfortable atmosphere. The contrast between straight architectural lines and organic shapes from nature makes the entire composition more interesting. The 2 different types of trees also add variety because natural environments are rarely completely uniform. A dark oak tree creates a dense and familiar feeling, while a tropical tree gives the floating location a more exotic atmosphere. Carrie also uses the open area supported by purple fences to place a table and sofas, turning it into a small outdoor relaxation zone. This is an important design choice because outdoor spaces can extend the usable area of a home. Instead of treating the area around the building as empty decoration, she gives it a purpose. Good architecture is not only about creating walls and rooms, it is also about designing places where people can spend time, relax, and interact with the environment around them. Inside the quartz foundation, Carrie creates a passage that leads through the lower part of the floating house. This is an interesting decision because it turns the foundation from a simple support structure into an active part of the building. In many architectural projects, areas that are usually hidden, such as basements or structural spaces, can become useful parts of the design when they are planned correctly. Instead of only focusing on the visible upper levels, Carrie considers how people can move through the entire structure. She builds a small platform from wooden planks inside this area, creating a clear transition between the solid quartz foundation and the water surrounding it. Designing movement through a building is an important part of architecture because spaces should not only look impressive, but also guide people naturally. A well-planned path can make even an unusual structure feel comfortable and easy to explore. In a floating home, where the relationship with water is the main idea, creating a route that brings people closer to the water makes the experience much more memorable. Inside the passage, Carrie covers the water with spruce planks while leaving a large open space leading directly toward the water. She then surrounds this opening on all sides with fences, creating a controlled and safe connection between the interior of the foundation and the outside environment. This is a great example of balancing openness and protection. Architecture often works with this exact idea. People want to feel connected to nature, but they also need spaces that feel secure. The open water area creates a unique view and makes the lower part of the house feel more connected to its floating location, while the fences define the boundary and make the area easier to understand. Similar ideas appear in real buildings near oceans, lakes, and rivers, where designers use railings, platforms, and observation areas to let people experience the environment safely. By adding this passage, Carrie does not simply decorate the foundation, she creates another experience inside the floating house, proving that every part of a building can have a purpose when the design is planned thoughtfully.
Ta-da!
Where did everyone run off to? Hey guys, what's all that noise?
Carrie and I are building a floating house on time, JJ. Who did it better?
Oh, both of your buildings look great, but I think it's up to the audience to decide who did the best.
Yes, JJ, you're right. Maybe then you have comments on the construction of Carrie?
Not at all. It's not just a floating house. This is a real cruise ship with all the amenities.
I totally agree with you, JJ. Maybe then you can build your floating house in 15 minutes.
Okay, then let's run to the place.
JJ, good luck to you. We'll wait in the house.
But
Thanks, guys. Then I'm starting. Round 3. I start my floating house by using a command to create a large mansion directly on the water. Using commands allows me to quickly generate a complex structure, but the design itself still requires careful planning. In professional architecture, digital tools are often used to create large-scale concepts and test ideas before construction begins. The advantage of these tools is that they allow designers to focus more on proportions, composition, and the relationship between different parts of a building instead of spending all their time creating repetitive elements. My creation is not just a simple house floating above the water. It is a 2-story mansion designed as a real hotel, which means the building needs to feel impressive while also being comfortable for visitors. Hotels have a different purpose compared to ordinary homes because they must combine private spaces with areas where people can relax and interact. This changes the way architects think about layouts, furniture placement, and the overall atmosphere of the building. The goal is not only to create something beautiful from the outside, but also to make the interior feel like a place where people would actually want to stay. To keep the mansion above the water, I use unique curved supports made from purple blocks. These supports are one of the most important visual features of the design because they make the building appear like it is floating while still having a clear connection with the water below. In real architecture, supporting structures can become more than just technical solutions. Bridges, towers, and modern buildings often highlight their structural elements because the way a building stands can become part of its identity. Instead of hiding the supports, I make them visible and turn them into a decorative feature. The curved shape also creates a sense of movement, which contrasts with the still surface of the water. This is an interesting architectural technique because curved lines often make structures feel more dynamic and elegant compared to strict, straight geometry. The purple material adds another layer to the design by creating a strong contrast with the surrounding environment, helping the supports become a recognizable part of the mansion. Since this building is a hotel, I design it with more than just an impressive exterior in mind. A real hotel needs to create an experience for its guests, and that includes both the environment around the building and the spaces inside it. Great! My floating house is ready. It's time for me to show it to the guys.
Wow, JJ. When did you manage to build something so incredible? Your floating house looks like a resort island.
Thank you guys. I am very glad that you liked my building. Friends, be sure to write in the comments whose building you liked the most. Well, I think it's time for us to finish.
Yes, JJ, you're right.
Subscribe and like. Bye-bye.